fight him till we die, but rather than surrender, we'll fight.
She's like, I want to go on all the trips.
I'm John Emmon. This is my farm and my granddaughters and my son. It's known as Seven Cedars Farm. And we have a lot of public events here. And we have a destination place, and we're growing, let's put it that way. We grow plants, Christmas trees. We have events like today, which is the Touch the Truck and the military units. And people seem to be having a good time.
I the truth will tell concerning many a soldier who for his country fell. Burgoyne the king's commander and curse the Tory crew within.
My name is Bruce Ferreira. I'm a retired Master Sergeant from the United States Army Reserve. We're here today at the Touch a Truck / military vehicle show at Seven Cedars Farm. And what we're doing is we're introducing families, friends to vehicles that their dads, their granddads used to drive in the military. We have everything here from World War II all the way up to current. We have support from the Army National Guard. They're here with recruiters that were brought in to help fill in the show. Been doing this for quite a few years now, but the club that I belong to is the Rhode Island Military Vehicle Classic Collectors Club, RIMVCC. We're on Facebook, so you can pick up a lot more information on that. We do various shows, parades, charity events sponsored by people who just need to make something happen for the community. And what we're doing today is introducing people to our vehicles, showing our vehicles. And it's fun just talking with people who see this, say, oh, this is so cool, I never saw this before. Well, news doesn't cover World War II items anymore, so what you're seeing is rolling history here. In addition to the show we do today, my favorite event is the two parades coming up. We've got Memorial Day and 4th of July. It's my pleasure to transport the Korean War veterans along the parade route so that they can maintain their history of being in the various parades. And I promised them that as long as there's one of them that wants to ride in the parade, they'll be there. And it's been a great time ever since. We're doing a lot of things with the trucks. Often we'll go out and do a trail ride just for the heck of doing a trail ride. When the price of fuel went through the roof, we did not do too many trail rides. Most of our vehicles are diesel power. There's a good smattering of gasoline powered vehicles, but even still, it's getting to a point where the price was just too high. So we kind of laid back and we worked on our vehicles, brought them up to snuff a little bit better, maybe repainted them or tuned them in a little bit better so they operated. But we're out there as much as we possibly can, meeting the public and having a good time. The kids seem to enjoy just sitting in the truck or comparing themselves to, in this case, we just finished one person putting his child next to one of the tires on my truck. These trucks weigh in at 500 pounds and stand just under 42 inches tall, 44 inches probably. Maybe even, yeah, just about that, not quite 4 foot. But they're rather large.
Come out to me, ye heroes, and I the truth will tell concerning many a soldier who for his country fell. Burgoyne the king's commander and curse the Tory crew with Indians and Canadians, he up the Champlain blue, up the Champlain blue, up the Champlain blue, with Indians and Canadians, he up the Champlain blue. Before Ticonderoga, full well both night and day, their motions we observe it before the bloody fray. Burgoyne sent on to Bennington with Hessians there he went. To plunder and to murder was fully their intent.
We founded this club 23 years ago with just military vehicle enthusiast people, and this is what we do. It's basically the history of military vehicles. A lot of us were retired military, just the stories, and we've got a little bit of everything that you could ever think of, from tanks all the way down to Jeeps. I'm here today because I promote the history of military vehicles, and I'm actually more of like a historian and the maintenance mechanics for a lot of these guys who ask for technical questions. And basically, that's what I do.
I am retired Brigadier General Richard J. Valente. Okay, good morning. I'm attending the Rhode Island Military Vehicle Collectors Club annual show in Smithfield for the first time. Great location and a good turnout. And we're a bunch of military vehicle enthusiasts. You know, a soldier in his Jeep, you just can't get away from it. This vehicle is a, well, the colloquial name is a deuce and a half, meaning 2.5 ton. It's a prime mover for 105 howitzers, and it's also a cargo carrier. It'll carry 2.5 tons in the field or 5 tons on the highway. This one was built in 1967, and it was depot rebuilt in 1977, and they repowered it with a diesel multi-fuel, turbo diesel multi-fuel, so it can burn anything. And matter of fact, one year we had fried onion rings with our Christmas prime rib, and I burned the leftover oil, just dumped it in the tank and let it go. Smelled like onion rings for a little while, but that's okay. Well, I spent 35 years in the Army, and I spent most of that time in field artillery. That's why I lost my hearing, but that's beside the point. And I commanded an artillery battery as a captain. I commanded an artillery battalion as a lieutenant colonel. I commanded a 5-battalion artillery brigade as a full colonel. And then I got transferred to the MPs and commanded the MP brigade and got promoted to general officer.
I'm finding it hilarious. He's wearing a shirt of a show I watched as a kid.
Well, that's because, yeah, Daddy.
Yeah, I want to tell you a little bit about the Benefit Street Arsenal in Providence. It's located at 176 Benefit Street, and as I tell people, you can't miss it. It's the only castle on the street. It was built in the 1840s for the Providence Marine Corps of Artillery. The Providence Marine Corps of Artillery still occupies the building, and they have been active since 1801. And today's 103rd Field Artillery is directly descended by Army lineage from the Providence Marine Corps of Artillery. So we're pretty proud of the fact that we've been around for over 200 years and fought in almost every single war. So, and if anybody would like to see the arsenal sometime, give me a holler.
I'll start from the beginning. Civil War belonged to my great-great-grandfather. He was a lieutenant with the U.S. Army in charge of an all-black force at the mouth of the Mississippi River when the Civil War broke out. And that's where he had to stay during the whole war. This is a bayonet for a musket from the Civil War period. These bayonets are from World War I. These go on the front of the rifle when a soldier runs out of ammunition to defend himself. The survival knives and bayonets from World War II into Korea, into Vietnam. This particular one belonged to my uncle in the Navy in World War II. He drove a Navy LST. That's the ship that you see in the movies that brings the soldiers to the shore and the whole front folds down. The soldiers come running out. That's what he drove. He gave it to me when I was 14. It's my first hunting knife. And I carried it all through Vietnam. The the machetes that we carried for breaking our way through the jungles. Problem with them is they're so big, they get caught in everything. So the government invented the jungle machete. Half the size, third the weight, with the hook blade on it, 10 times more effective against the jungle vines. Hand grenade. It can kill you, but believe it or not, it was not designed as a kill weapon. It was designed as a wounding weapon. The reason behind that, if I throw this out and kill a soldier, the other soldiers get mad and fight harder. What happens if I wound this soldier? 2 other soldiers stop fighting to get him to safety. That's 3 soldiers out of the fight. So if you throw this out and wound 4 or 5 soldiers, take a dozen soldiers out of the fight, maybe you can encircle and stop all the killing. That was the idea behind it. Didn't always work, but the intent was there. My nice photos. If you want to look at them, you may. These are original photos taken in Vietnam by military photographers. I got these out of a trash dumpster 3 years ago. These were sent in the late 70s to a book bindery up in Brockton, Mass, to be printed into a book to be distributed to government agencies. They went bankrupt and never printed the book. 3 years ago, a trash company was hired to clean the warehouse out. I saved 200,000 photos from going to the landfill. This book and all these books on Vietnam I kept, and the others we donated to museums and places that would keep the history alive. Now the fun part, this is what I did in Vietnam. Aircraft recovery. The helicopter lifting a downed helicopter out of the jungle. I found this photo and read when and where it was taken. Now I go back to look, I hooked the strap to the top of that helicopter. And if you look closely down here in the corner, there's a person still standing there on the ground. I can about guarantee you that's me standing there.
That's amazing.
And I find it 50 years later in a dumpster. It was meant for me to have it. I've had 3 other people find themselves in the photos, and I make sure they get a nice copy of it for their mementos. This is the helmet that I wore in Vietnam as an aircraft crew chief and door gunner. Pipe smoke was our radio call sign. The 8 Domino, our commander was called Crazy Eights. So that's why we all wore the 8. My actual nickname was Smokey. I was the chief. This helmet is a tank commander's helmet. These are the first almost bulletproof helmets that the government started issue. They're manufactured with that Kevlar material. The earlier steel pot helmets will not stop a bullet. We use them to sit on, we use them to cook our meals in, we use them to heat up shaving water.
Shaving water, yep.
This was a cook stove.
Yep.
It's a little gasoline-powered Coleman stove. This is called an entrenching tool. It's a fancy name for a shovel.
Yeah.
It's a pickaxe. It's also an axe that would cut a tree down. Again, the problem is it's so big and heavy.
Sure, they came up with this thing.
Same tool.
Much more compact.
It's a shovel. It's a pick. And it's an axe. And it's less than 1/3 the weight.
That's amazing.
The whole idea, cut down on the weight. Soldier can carry more ammunition, carry more food supplies. Ergo, I don't have to group up to be resupplied as often, because when you group up, you become a big target. So the whole idea is to eliminate that as many times as you can. And that's the way it progresses. The field telephones were carried. You had to find the wires that went from post to post to hook up to, because these weren't 2-way radios. They came out with the 2-way radios leaning against my front tire. That's a PRC 25 that has a range of about 12 miles.
That's a
45
rocket.
miles.
Dad, that's
Today,
a walk.
the radios are the size of your cell phone.
Right.
Mess kit, funny one for you. Kids will like it, I hope. This is what we ate our chow in.
I love it.
They bring them out in a mermaid can, the cooler over here.
What's
Meat,
this?
potato, vegetable. Once in a great while, you'd get a dessert.
This one?
When you're all done,
Chow kit. That's what they would eat their food in.
you'd hook it up, you'd put them in the hot soapy water and wash them, hot boiling water and rinse them, you'd dry them off. Now when you're all done, you take these and you put them in your sock.
In your sock.
Now if you remember right, you'd use a clean sock. You gotta eat with these tomorrow. But the reason behind that, if you put them in there like that, guess what you got? An awful big rattle to give away your position. So you didn't want that. So you always took one of your clean socks, wrapped them up, then put them back in here like this,
So it would,
closed it back up, and put it back in your backpack so you'd have it for lunch tomorrow. But that's how the food was brought out by helicopter in this green case here on the ground. That's called a mermaid can. Now it has a chemical insulator in it that if you put something hot in it, it retains the heat. If you put something cold in it, it retains the cold. It knows the difference.
yeah.
And it will maintain that for 4 to 5 hours compared to like an igloo cooler that you buy today. The technology is just so much advanced. And we'd bring a dozen of those in a helicopter out to a squad in the jungle for them to have food, one good meal a day if they were on operations. The truck, if I may, is a 1963 Dodge. It is a mechanic's service truck. You folks call AAA when you break down. That's what this truck did for the Army. It has a generator, a welder, and a battery charger all built in. The compartments would be filled with the parts and tools respective to the vehicles it was assigned to take care of. If you'll notice, all the doors have signatures on them. Those are Vietnam veterans that I've talked to at shows around the country. It's just my way of preserving some history. I have them autographed my truck. I've been doing this for 8 years now. This rifle was invented for the Vietnam War. This rifle and this round replaces the hand grenade. This is an M79 grenade launcher, affectionately known as Thumper. Some people the Marines called them bloopers, but the Army called them thumpers because of the noise it made when you fired it. The advantage to this over a hand grenade is a hand grenade, you cannot throw it far enough that it won't hurt you as well as the enemy. Thumper I can throw 400 yards. That's 4 football fields. And with a little practice, I can drop this through a window 10 out of 10 times. And there's 7 different types of rounds available. There's anti-personnel, which is a gold tip. The black one is armor piercing. The little black one, if I put this in Thumper, fire it up here at night, for 90 seconds it's going to be daytime. This has a little parachute that comes out of it, and it burns a glob of white phosphorus. And it'll light up a 200-yard circle like daytime. And then there's 3 or 4 other types of rounds available as well. This, believe it or not, is an airsoft toy. It's a replica. A guy had it, and the hinge got broken, and he was going to throw it away. I said, please give it to me, because it's so close to the exact real weapon. And to show you how close it is, that's a real round. That's how close it is.
Wow.
But they had a plastic bullet that fired paint pellets out of it.
Yeah.
And this is a Laws rocket, which is synonym for light anti-tank weapon. That telescopes to twice its length. You aim it at the thing you want to hit, shoot it, and then you throw it away because it's a one-time use only. You cannot reload it. And the rocket on the ground is the 275 rocket that was fired by the helicopter gunships. They would have pods on the side of the helicopter. They would either have from 9 to 19 of those rockets. And they would always fire 2 at a time to keep the ship balanced. And it's not a smart weapon. You had to aim the helicopter. The pilot would have a crosshair on the windshield, and he'd aim and then fire the rockets.
Mommy, what's that?
They always fired them in pairs. And that's about what I got.
Woo!
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And if I may say also, we do have donation signs up rather than charging admission. We do these shows, we do the Veterans Water Fire, we do college events, we do military funerals, all on our dime, so if you can help us out, please. We're the Rhode Island Military Vehicle Collectors Club, and I am Ralph Bennett. I was a Vietnam veteran from the 60s.
The army, soldiers' heart to cheer. Burgoyne cried advances, but we will never fly. But rather than surrender, we'll fight him till we die. Fight him till we die. Fight him till we die. But rather than surrender, we'll fight him till we die.